knew about it, but I went back to Detroit and I think I was in Detroit for 5 or 6 years, just as I approached my 40s. Just a very dark period in terms of creativity. And
right.
I was just using, and as the time went on, I got on methadone to please my family, but continued to use both heroin and cocaine every single fucking day. And I got to say, I talked about the spirit of coca. When you take it out of its natural form, the coca leaf, and then you refine it, and then you put all these impurities in it, and then you smoke it or shoot it. Because I was shooting it. You get away from, same thing with poppy. You get away from the plant energy, and I was in psychosis a good deal of the time. For those of you who have injected cocaine, will know what I'm talking about. Just the constantly going back into my arm over and over and over again, and like not liking the feeling, being paralyzed with paranoia. My life had become very, very small. I would work and to get the $200 a day I needed, go to the methadone clinic every day, and this went on for a number of years.
Okay. And so I guess, at this point it was just, the addiction was just running under its own steam, right?
Yeah, I was I'm still a slave to a plant. I just switched plants, but I was under the spell of addiction, which I believe is a spell.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that if it gives you so much, this is a spell of consumerism. A spell of end stage capitalism. Where you just do this and it'll do that for you. So I feel that I was spelled. I was under witchcraft,
mm-hmm.
and I was there for a long time.
Okay, and so what finally got you over the hump to do Iboga, to realize that this was what you wanted?
It's the ancestors, really. I didn't realize it at the time, but my ancestors were calling me. I'm Greek American, and Greek Americans go back to Greece almost every summer. And I was, this is several years into it. I was approaching 40. I was in my 39th year, and I just wanted to go to Greece. I had tried to go to Greece the year before with some plan to take a bunch of methadone, and my brother and a few other people talked me out of it because they were worried I'd get busted on the border. We're carrying all this methadone into Greece, and it would be a disaster. So I wanted to go with my parents involved in it, tried not to do it. The spell was, the spell of addiction was trying to stand in the way.
Mm-hmm.
But slowly, but eventually I made it there. I arrived on May 21st, 2002.
Dimitri, before you go into that, this is sort of an interesting question, and for people who are listening, it might be really useful to understand, why there's still resistance to doing a treatment, even when you want to be off of it so badly, but you're still sort of undermining yourself.
That's a good question, because my whole life, first of all, there was an identity, and there's the pain of identity, of course, every identity. There's pain in being linked to your Iboga provider, right? And there's the pain of identity of being a junkie. But the pain...
Hang on, Dimitri, we're getting some noise in the background.
I was running the sink here. I'm getting a glass of water. I'm sorry.
Okay.
The pain of being released from that identity. All I knew was Dimitri the junkie. That's all I knew. Dimitri the junkie, Dimitri artist junkie. Then I threw away artist, and I had pain for losing that. And so I was just tied to this identity of being a junkie. I didn't know how to live outside of that. I didn't know, And then there was the doubt that it would work. And people become very comfortable in their misery.
Right.
And I think that's where I was, And then there's also, you tell a heroin addict that they're going to trip, this idea that you trip for 36 hours, which, as most of us know, it's not 36 hours in most cases. Sometimes it's longer, but usually it's a lot less. But the idea of tripping at all is the exact opposite of what an opiate-dependent person wants. An opiate-dependent person wants to go to sleep, to go have a nice nappy nap, to the land of Nod, and not think about their life, let alone their grandmother's life, you know what I mean, in detail, and wonder about the pain of their father, you know?
Right.
And then to explore that into deep detail, and then to dig into the demons of ancestral demons and demons inside your belly, you know? We know that that's going to release that pain in the belly, and then all the other shit that opiates are beautiful at relieving you from the pain from, whether it's childhood trauma, sexual abuse, sexual identity, gender identity, racism, classism, whatever it is for you in particular, you know, that was going to come up, and the heroin has been keeping all that in check. We've got to thank, Mother Poppy for keeping all that in check when people weren't able to deal with it. So that was terrifying to me. You know, I had a full-time job. It was a junkie. I punched in every morning, and I punched out every night, you know?
Yeah.
Suddenly my job description was going to shift into a brave new world, and, you know, I didn't even have a fucking passport at the time, you know? I had to go through all that process. So I think that's, I don't know if that explains it a little bit.
Yeah, that helps a lot, yeah. I mean, there's a question that people, you know, wonder, people who haven't been addicts themselves, who wonder why.
Yeah, like, why wouldn't you wonder, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing about Iboga that we as providers are really got to look out for is that we put all this pressure on people. We put this prohibitionist fucking Protestant pressure on people to stop using as the ultimate goal, you know? So if my family had given this money and I got my passport and all this pressure on us, which helped in my eventually stopping, you know, but if all this is on us, you know, and then we quote unquote fail, it's the worst. You know, I went and got the Holy Grail and I still fucked up. I'm such a fuck up, you know. And obviously the RBA community contributed to that as well, you know, myself included, you know. So, you know, there was a lot of pressure, and, you know,